The amount of Mario games that have actual full-fledged backstories, world building and lore can be counted on one hand. You'll definitely have to look at spin-off games before you even find any. And even in those spin-off games, more often than not, this stuff is pretty well hidden and not really put in the forefront whatsoever. Take the topic of the day for example, Paper Mario: The Thousand Year Door. Throughout the main story of the game, you occasionally catch glimpses of the backstory of Rogueport, the Crystal Stars and the Shadow Queen. But not only do you really have to pay close attention to even notice it, there's also a lot more you might never even discover in the first place. The key to all this information is a mysterious mouser known as Grifty. He can be found on the rooftops of Rogueport and will share a tale with you for the low price of 5 coins. Now, seeing as his name is Grifty, it would be sensible for us to take his stories with a grain of salt. He has a financial interest in keeping us engaged after all, so why would he be telling the truth? Well, despite his stories being about a time way before the story of the game is set, we do actually find out several details in his stories are spot on, all thanks to the action of a certain evil group who appear to have paid a visit to Mr. Grifty as well. But more on that later. Let's start with the history of Rogueport and the world of Paper Mario: The Thousand Year Door as told in Grifty's tales. He begins by painting the same picture we see in the intro of the game. Rogueport was once a flourishing city of riches, when suddenly disaster struck. In the intro, this is depicted as a natural phenomenon, and Grifty even references this, saying historians claim a great calamity struck the town, but he knows the truth. It was a demon. The city sank below ground, as seen in the intro, with 1/4 of it becoming the demon's den. This is the Palace of Shadow, explaining why this is such a place of luxury, while most of Rogueport is very much not. It's a part of the old city. As if the demon, who isn't called by name as the Shadow Queen here by the way, wasn't strong enough yet, she created the Crystal Stars, which hold the essence of the heavens. This is obviously a very vague power, we know nothing about what it means, and I'm actually a little surprised this line wasn't changed in the jump from GameCube to Switch. Many of Grifty's tales have small parts altered between the two versions, all of it wording, not actual lore details FYI, and this feels like a sentence that could have really used some clarification. But alas, power of the heavens it is, let's continue. So the Crystal Stars were scattered across the land to increase the demon's influence. Other prominent locations we visit throughout the game were also built around this time, like Hooktail Castle, built to hold the Crystal Star, and the Pit of 100 Trials, which served as a prison for those who stood up to the reign of the demon. The demon's free pets, Hooktail, Gloomtail and Bonetail, also enter the scene here, flying across the entire region to spread fear among the residents. But as is occasionally mentioned throughout the main story, the reign of the demon eventually came to an end at the hand of the 4 heroes. The first of these was a young Toad from Petal Meadows, which is actually more of a Koopa-dominated area by the time Mario sets foot in it. This Toad apparently had a strange voice and was often teased for it, but when push came to shove, he stood up against the reign of the demon. Similar events happened in other places in the world. In the Bogley Woods, a wise Goomba used her knowledge to fend off the monsters in the woods, a practice remarkably similar to what Goombella ends up doing about 1,000 years later. A nomad Koopa warrior traveled the lands and bested the monsters wherever he found them, to the point he became quite a well-known threat among the demon's forces. They set up a trap for him and successfully caught their adversary, but his spirit convinced one of the monsters, Boo, to switch sides and free him using her magic. It was she that realized all 4 of them needed to bond together to defeat the demon once and for all, and used her magic to make that a reality. Together they headed for the Palace of Shadow, home of this evil demon. Once there, they found its power to be too much to handle, until the wise Goomba came up with an idea to use the power of the Crystal Stars against their creator. With the power of teamwork, they managed to seize the artifacts and indeed caused great damage to their foe for the first time. But it still wasn't enough. And so, the wise Goomba went to planning again and came up with a plan that is still in motion during the start of the game. Sealing the demon in the depths of its palace. Only the 7 Crystal Stars would be enough to free the demon once more. While the seal did end up working, the demon did manage to place a final curse on the 4 heroes. Once they would let go of their last Crystal Stars, their soul would become trapped in a black chest, the same kind Mario later finds and obtains his powers from, hint hint. The heroes didn't fear this fate and did what they had to do, spread the Crystal Stars across the land. the wise Goomba returned to the Bogley Woods, where she planned to hide the star inside the great tree. However, she found the punies of the woods swarmed by monsters, and so, to protect them, hollowed out a tree for them to live in, before hiding the star inside. The Boom Mage hid her star in Creepy Steeple, before becoming the Black Chest on Twilight Trail. The Toad was miles out into the world when he simply couldn't take it anymore and collapsed, presumably near Petalburg. He was saved by a traveling healer, but he knew what would happen once he let go of the crystal star. And so, he gave the star to his savior and told him to hide it somewhere where no one would find it. The Koopa went to a faraway island to hide his star, but because he was so tired from the journey, the pirate Cortez could easily steal it. He kept it in his treasury ever since, not realizing its value. The Koopa instead became the black chest found in the pirate's grotto. Before they fell, however, and this is where the timeline gets a bit weird, the heroes did apparently come together to create a magical map with the locations of each crystal star. How, for example, the Toad knows where the healer would put the star is a mystery that borders on a plot hole, and it's never explained either. The same goes for why the black chest of the wise Goomba is found in a location that isn't consistent with her story. Her chest is found in Rogueport underground, but how it got there is unknown, although it is likely it was moved over the course of time. It's also possible the Bogley Woods star wasn't her last in possession, as her story is the only one that doesn't mention her becoming a chest, meaning it is possible she still had another star on her person or Goomba when she placed it in Bogley Woods. The final story Grifty has for us explains how, as the years went by, the story of the demon sealed away behind the 1000-year door became more and more of an afterthought. Rogueport was formed from unsavory types lured to the location in search of treasure, and as established before, even historians didn't know there was a demon lurking beneath the city. This is all the Mouser has to tell Mario, but in a very neat stroke of storytelling consistency, we actually have a lot of reason to believe Mario wasn't his only client. He is not the only one after the crystal stars after all. The X-Nauts also have their sights set on them, and since they're hunting them without a magical map, they need other means to find out where they're located. So let's take a look at where the stars are found and whether the X-Nauts know where they are. The first one is located in Hooktail's stomach, suggesting that is where the healer eventually ended up. While we never see the X-Nauts in Petal Meadows, during the end of chapter 1 we do see that an X-Naut reports back to Grotus that, and I quote, "the crystal star we believed Hooktail may have had has been nabbed." So while they don't appear during this chapter, they did know a crystal star was to be found in this part of the land. The second star is located in the Great Tree in the Bogley Woods, which suffers an entire X-Naut invasion, so I think it's safe to say they know it's here. In chapter 3, the X-Nauts and the Shadow Sirens are completely absent, suggesting they had no clue there was a star to be found in Glitzville. In chapter 4, we collect the star from the Creepy Steeple, and while we don't encounter any X-Nauts here, we eventually see them looking for the star after Mario's already gone, during Bowser's segment. In the next chapter, we visit Keel Hall Key, a location the X-Nauts did know held a crystal star, seeing as they sent in Lord Crump undercover to nab it. The next star location, Poshley Heights, is the only one of which the game outright informs us why the X-Nauts or Shadow Sirens know where it is, as we see Beldam eavesdropping on Mario and friends as they head for the Poshley Sanctum. The last star is a bit of a mystery, as we retrieve it from the X-Naut fortress on the moon, with its original location set to be Rogueport at the end of chapter 2. How exactly the X-Nauts found it is something we will never know, but it at least adds strength to the idea that this crystal star is the one the wise Goomba let go of to become the black chest in Rogueport Underground. What we do know is the pattern that is emerging here. Throughout the game, it is shown the X-Nauts are aware of the location of 4 crystal stars. The one in Petal Meadows, the one in Bogley Woods, the one in Creepy Steeple and the one on Keel Hall Key. And lo and behold, those are the locations of the 4 stars mentioned in Grifty's tales. Coincidence? I think not. The X-Nauts too got their intel from Grifty and used that to track down the crystal stars, but the location of the other 2 is a complete mystery to them. They know nothing about the star in Glitzville, a city which definitely didn't exist when the stars were initially scattered, and as such, our adversaries don't appear here during any point of the story. Only thanks to eavesdropping on map holder Mario are the Shadow Sirens aware of the star in Poshley Heights, scrambling together a last minute plan to obtain it. And that leaves the one in Rogueport, that we eventually collect on the moon, as a bit of a final mystery. Perhaps the X-Nauts stumbled on it by accident, perhaps it wasn't very well hidden, or perhaps Beldam had knowledge about this star and gave it to the X-Nauts. We don't know, but seeing as Rogueport is quite a prominent town, I think the chances of this star being a bit more well known and notorious compared to the others is likely. And so, this all ties together in a way that has to be intentional, and is exactly the kind of writing and level of detail that makes the 1000 Year Door such an amazing game, among other elements of course. The way this is all kept low-key, there to be found but not too pronounced, is something I hope Mario games will try to do more in the future. It's a good way to add depth to your world and story without having additional complexity, which I can understand is something Nintendo doesn't want for Mario. Anyway, if you have any 1000 Year Door theories or lore facts of your own, share them in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, please consider giving it a like and subscribe to the channel to stay updated on all my future Mario content coming up. For now, thanks for watching and enjoy the rest of your day.